Now, I know some of y'all hate potlucks, but do you want to know what I love about them? Whether it's for work, church, or among family, people usually want to show off their best cooking. And yours truly is not too shy to ask for the recipe if it's tasty. I've gotten some of my best recipes at potlucks, in fact. And today I'm going to share one of those recipes with you. A vintage recipe for chocolate lovers. A decadent treat indeed. I present to you scotch cake. Bonjour, y'all. I'm Miss Kate, and this is Go Cuisine. Here we make cooking fun, easy, and adventurous. Let's dive in. For this cake, you'll need 2 cups flour, 2 cups sugar, a stick of margarine, half a cup of Crisco, 2 tablespoons unsweetened cocoa powder, 1 cup water, half a cup buttermilk, 2 eggs, 1 teaspoon baking powder, and 1 teaspoon vanilla. Please note that this recipe was originally in cups, but I've tried to put the metric here for those of us that prefer it. Then for the icing, we're going to need another stick of margarine, 4 tablespoons of unsweetened cocoa powder, 2 tablespoons of milk, a pound of powdered sugar, that was the box size, 1 teaspoon vanilla extract, and 2 cups of coconut. Now, if you're like me, you don't stock margarine, so I've chosen to substitute butter. Let's go make this thing. Start with a large bowl, and you'll want to put your sugar and your flour into this bowl. Is it just me, or is this a lot of sugar? You'll also want to prep a 9x13 pan by butter and flouring it and preheating your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, 180 degrees Celsius. We're going to whisk together these dry ingredients. You can sift them if you want, but I've found that this method works just fine. Next, in a 2-quart saucepan, we're going to melt together our margarine, or in my case butter, our Crisco, our cocoa powder, and our water. And we're going to bring this to a boil to pour over that sugar flour mixture that we just made. Now, if you're like me, you're probably wondering, why is there Crisco in this recipe? Well, they used the Crisco back then for a few reasons. One, it was cheaper than butter, and it was shelf stable. And Crisco is pure fat. It is hydrogenated vegetable oil, which we know now is probably not that good for you and shouldn't be your fat of choice, but it does help with aeration and moisture retention in a cake. It also makes a more stable crumb, so if you want your cake to maintain its shape, this is the way to go. Plus, it had a neutral flavor. That's why you see it in a lot of vintage recipes. Now that we've got this on the stove over a medium heat, you don't have to stir it constantly, but you do want to come over here and kind of mix it every now and then to make sure that that cocoa gets blended in. When you come in and stir, just make sure you kind of scrape the bottom and make sure nothing burns. And we just want to bring this to a boil, like that. Next, we're going to carefully pour this into our flour sugar mixture and whisk that in. Now, to keep this bowl from slipping while we stir, I've placed a trivet under it. You can use a silicone trivet or you can just use a kitchen towel. Remember, this was just boiling, so we don't want it to spill. Start slow and whisk it together. Start in the middle and then go around the edges until you don't see any flour. You should have a nice, smooth, glossy texture like this. Next, we'll add in our buttermilk. Now, if you don't have buttermilk, you can make your own sour milk by mixing together milk and either lemon juice or vinegar. I'll put the measurements on the screen for you. And just whisk that together till it comes together. Scrape everything down with your rubber spatula, and then we'll add in our eggs. I crack my eggs into a measuring cup and add the vanilla and then lightly beat them before adding them to the batter. You'll see this batter is quite liquid and it comes together rather quickly. Our last ingredient is our baking soda, and we'll just mix this in and then we can pour it into our prepared pan. Yes, this is a disposable 9x13 because remember, I'm taking this to a potluck. And I don't know about at your job, but at every job I've worked at, I swear somebody walks off with someone else's pan. So this will just help that not happen. I think the worst time I lost a dish at a potluck was when someone decided to throw away my bowl full of pea salad. Okay, you didn't like the pea salad. You could have left the bowl. We'll place this in our preheated oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit, 180 degrees Celsius for about 30 minutes or until a toothpick comes out clean from the center. Then, using the same pan that we used for the cocoa mixture, we're going to make our icing. You'll need another stick or 113 grams of butter, along with the cocoa and milk, and then we'll bring this to a boil. Go ahead and add a pinch of salt because we know that salt brings out flavor. Now I suppose I could have cut this butter up to facilitate the melting, but I didn't, so I'm just kind of pushing it around in my pan to help it along, and also to break up any lumps of cocoa that I see so that it's smooth. And I'm doing this again over a medium heat. After everything's melted, I'm going to switch to a whisk. And again, I'm just trying to break up any lumps as it comes to a boil. I'm going to highly recommend that you sift your powdered sugar into a large bowl. If you skip this step, you may end up with white spots in your final frosting. And now that this has come to a boil, I'm just going to give it one final whisk, and then we're going to dump it into that powdered sugar. Now, timing this could be tricky because you want your cake to be ready, and here's my finished cake, and it's passed the toothpick test. This icing will set up as it cools, so here we go. Powdered sugar, boiled butter mixture. Use your rubber spatula to get all that buttery goodness in there. And yes, again, I use butter, not margarine. Add a splash of vanilla extract. And we're just going to stir that together to dissolve all the sugar. Now, if you're finding that this won't come together, you can add a little splash of milk, but do it a tablespoon at a time to get this to all dissolve. I'm going to switch from my spatula to my whisk again and give this one final whisk just to make sure there's no dry powdered sugar in there before I fold in the coconut. Now this is just that sweetened shredded coconut that you find in the baking aisle. There is nothing fancy about this at all. Fold it in until it's all coated with the chocolatey stuff. And then we're just going to dollop this on the cake and spread it out. Be careful not to tear your cake. The cake is pretty light and this frosting is heavy. So just kind of spread it out by putting dollops on there, and then you can spread it evenly across the top. For this job, I recommend an offset spatula. And you're just gonna go back and forth. Don't tear your cake. Take your time. The warm cake will help this spread out. I went ahead and garnished the top with some more toasted coconut so people would know what to expect in there. And I don't know about you, but I like to pre-cut my things for potlucks, so let's just go ahead and cut some squares out so that it's ready. And I know this is the baker in me, but nothing hurts my feelings more than seeing somebody butcher the cake that I just spent a lot of time baking. So I pre-cut it for them. What can I say? And then let me pull a piece out so you guys can see how nice and moist and fluffy this cake is. Oops. That did not get cut clean. I mean, look how decadent that is. Yum. This crumb is super moist and it will still be delicious when it gets to the potluck tomorrow. Look at it. Tasty, moist, delicious, decadent. And maybe I went over the top today because I also baked a clafouti. And yes, I put that piece back in there. So there you go. I hope this was fun for you. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please do so. And let me know in the comments, what do you take to potlucks? Have a good day. Happy cooking. Check out this next video that YouTube has picked out for you. Au revoir. Bon appetit. Ciao, ciao.